Can you tell me about some of the sports funerals you've had?
Probably the first one that really just has a striking memory was in 2000. The Ravens were getting ready to go to the Super Bowl. There was purple everything. The man who died was an extreme Ravens fan. The morning of the funeral, the grandsons brought a lot of flags. They were going to put them on the cars and, you know, show people what a fan he was. So I told him, if you have a couple extra, I'll put them on the hearse. And we did. I think that's probably my first memory of any sort of sports-related funeral we did until we got this Oriole casket.
We had a Steeler fan whose spouse came to us, and she said, my husband is ill, and he doesn't want to have a traditional service. So when he passed away, we wanted to seem like he just fell asleep watching the game. The dimensions of a recliner chair are very similar to a casket, and we would have him laid in the recliner as though he fell asleep. He had a TV in front of him with the Steelers playing. We even had his favorite blanket on him. He didn't love them until he died. He loved the Steelers even in his death.
Did you make the family happy?
Yes, I did make the family happy.
Quite often we'll have a family will come in and they'll want to design a monument, you know, based on what that person's love was and, you know, what their hobby was. You know, they want that monument to tell a little story. I just made a monument last year for a Raiders fan. The sister contacted me to make this monument for her brother. He used to chant as a little boy, "Win, lose, tie, Raiders fan till the day I die." He was adorned in Raiders attire, a Raiders shirt when he was laid to rest. And there would be nothing more fitting, she said, than it had to be a Raiders monument. Raiders fan till the day he died, and thereafter.
Lisa was a diehard Cowboys fan. I think she was born that way. We actually knew, and she had some time to plan what she wanted, so she chose a blue and silver casket. She was buried in her authentic, personalized custom jersey with her name on the back and 31 for the date of her birth. She was buried in her Cowboys rings, her Cowboys socks, her Cowboys shorts. I tried to put Cowboys tennis shoes on her, but apparently they don't bury people with shoes on, so who knew? When I notified everyone that Cowboys clothes were requested at her service, nobody was surprised by that. Our minister wore a suit with a Cowboys jersey underneath his blazer. It was such a big part of her life. Why not be a part of her send-off too?
We have an area called the Aggie Field of Honor. Being fans of the university, that's their choice of places to be buried. The graves in the Aggie Field of Honor, we actually oriented them so they're all from the foot to the head pointed towards the stadium. You can look right through the Spirit Gate and see the football stadium in the background. You can hear the roar of the crowd, so your spirit should be partaking in game day activities. You know, first come, first serve, so you got to get in there if you want those prime spots.
Do you think there are sports after you're dead?
I mean, up in heaven? You never know.
What would you do without the Cubs?
I don't know. I wouldn't sure be a White Sox fan, that's for sure. I'm a Cubs fan. I've been a Cubs fan for 1,000 years.
How much do you really like the Cubs?
Oh, I like them. Sometimes I don't, they get me mad. I ain't gonna lie to you, they make me mad. My favorite player was Mark Grace. The first time I met Grace, I said, you know, glad to meet you. And he said, I'm glad to meet you too, darling. That's what he said. My favorite dream is that I work at Cubs Park. They have a lot of senior citizens there, older than me.
Tell me about your plans.
Well, I hope I live a long time down the road, but if I pass away, I would like to have, wear some Cubs stuff on, like a nice jersey or a nice top, whatever, like I got on today.
No fancy dress.
I don't want to be buried in a fancy dress. I'm a Cub fan.
There was a NASCAR fan, I believe he was from Oregon, and he went by the name Big George.
Big.
Big George. Big George wanted to take a ride in a stock car apparently while he was alive, but he didn't live long enough to fulfill that dream. A few weeks after he passed away, some of his friends took his ashes to a race. They approached a NASCAR driver and said, "Is there any way that you would just take him for a ride around the racetrack?" He apparently taped the urn to the fire extinguisher in the race car, and he took Big George for a couple of laps around the track. And he told reporters afterwards that he heard a noise as he went through turn 1 and 2 on the track that sounded like someone squealing. He'd done, hundreds of thousands of laps around different racetracks in his career, and he said that it was an unfamiliar sound to him.
A voice from the beyond?
Could be. Could be.
So tell me about this Orioles casket.
That has more to do with my son than with me. One day he was looking online and he said, "Hey, Dad, what do you think?" He just happened to come across this website that had caskets that were licensed by Major League Baseball. I thought he was a little crazy myself, but he ordered it. Almost everybody who walked in that room used to say, "Oh my, look at that. Do you know who would look good in there?" And then they'd name somebody, One day, we used it. The man who was buried in that casket died at home, so it was going to take us some time to get down there. And while they were waiting, they dressed Dad in black sweatpants and his Oriole jersey. So the following day, when they came up to meet me, they stopped right there. They said, "That's it." They buried him in that Oriole casket with his Oriole jersey. People always say when you're a fan for life, but that might be a little short-sighted.